नमस्ते, सत श्री अकाल। मैं हूं अपराजिता सिंह और स्वागत है आपका मेरे पॉडकास्ट अपरा व्यक्ति में। यहाँ आप सुनते हैं मेरे लिखे हुए किस्से, कहानियां और कविताएं जो कि रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी से निकले उधेड़-बुन से आते हैं। As I shared in the previous episode, I'm starting a collaboration series this year named Baatcheet. Today you will listen to its first episode. As the society-friendly labeling of relationship knocks the door, marriage is the one label that opens the door for acceptance. In this episode, we will be talking about marriage versus live-in. I read this one of the book, Do I Not Marry, outlines the conversation between marriage and live-in. I believe its author could be the one of the best persons to talk about this entire ideation. So let's go ahead. Hello, Aditi. So welcome to the podcast. Apna Vyakti. Um,
Thank you. Hi,
uh,
Aparna. Thank you for having me.
yeah. So before moving ahead, let me introduce you. Aditi is an advertising graduate from Delhi College of Arts and Commerce, and she excels at the art of story writing. She did theaters for some time, and she won Juggernaut short story content contest for the theme of love in the time of coronavirus. She penned another story called as Women of House during the pandemic and published it on Amazon Kindle. Her recent book is Do I Not Marry, published by Readermania, which led us to have this conversation around the theme of live-in versus marriage. And before this, how we crossed the paths that we worked together in our previous company, and that's all about it. So over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Aparajita. And like Aparajita said, the one common thing in my studies and career has out and out been writing at its core. So I enjoy all types of writing, and but the closest is of course storytelling. Writing stories, short stories is very close to me. So today we'll talk about this book called Do I Not Marry, which I took about. It took about 8 years to kind of publish it because
Oh man.
Indian publishing industry is not quite as it seems. It's quite difficult to get in for a novice like me, and but it finally got published. So I look at the brighter side, and yes, it's about a tussle that millennials have about marriage and driven relationships and why they have this tussle and how should they go about it. It's a nice story sharing perspectives of two women, and read it and probably you'll get to know more about these.
Yeah, yeah. So I've read it and I was still put in the corner of like we are discussing about the topic of live-in versus marriage, and they're uh, in the normal this Indian home scenario, the marriage is all about like ठीक है घर वाले arrange करेंगे and you're gonna get married like that, and mostly so in the age and at times, especially in the tier 3 city where I'm coming from, so it's
Mhm.
more of a thing that uh, this love marriage versus arranged marriage is itself a fight.
I
So living through this whole concept of marriage is next level fight. So what are your thoughts on it, that how it's working out?
so I hear you, Aprajita, when you say that tier two, tier three cities, the first battle is actually, love marriage versus arranged marriage. So live-in relationship, is becomes like one of those, the third factor or, the elephant in the room you don't want to talk about. So, so it is one of those things, but I understand. I think it's I think it was post pandemic when people actually started coming about, started introspecting a lot about them, and that's when these
Hmm.
conversations around live-in relationships started. Um, whether if you talk about one common thread that ties live-in relationship, love marriage, arranged marriage, it's actually compatibility. It's
Yeah.
very important. I think these days that is the main premise, and based on how your compatibility is and whether two people, wherever they come from, irrespective of whatever ideologies, genders, or wherever they are from, it is very important to understand each other and see what works for two people together, whether it's a live-in relationship whether it's a marriage, love marriage, or arranged marriage. But of course, the battle is hard. So I say that probably marriage or arranged marriage is kind of an acceptable mask or
Yeah.
kind of
Scenario.
a celebrated milestone. It's hard for even love marriages to kind of sail through because there's a lot. I know many people around while I was writing this book and talking to them. So it's a very hard battle even for love marriages to kind of settle in and be a
Mhm.
part and be feel accepted the way they should. So it's hard. It's heartbreaking because sometimes you just see that you're talking to adults. You're not talking to child or a teenager, and adults know, like that you have to at one point in time be confident of children and let them do and work around. You cannot keep holding their hands and saying, no, this works better. You don't know. Of course, parents' experience, the elders' experience does.
Yeah.
But there are certain things I think when you say move on with time, it's about time. I think it might be hard for that generation to kind of move in with the pace now with which everything is moving, especially post pandemic. But it's
Yeah.
important because change is the only constant.
Definitely. But still, there is this one thing that's going on, that the pace at which relationship constants are changing and the labelings of relationships are changing.
Mm,
It's like even parents, even however understanding parents are there, they are at one point that at how many people you're gonna think of, like, okay, रह के देखेंगे कैसा लगता है, like that kind of thing. Because
exactly.
for them, it's more like you are living, matlab theek hai, you are
Mm,
going to get married. That's
yeah.
the only thing.
Yes. That's.
And in the current generation, we are in the age where we are like uh, doing a lot of trials and errors.
Mm,
And in that constant, it's very tough to explain ki, okay, what's going on. Or they have this one thing in mind, that okay, this not going to work, and then you will work, you may live in with someone else. So
mm.
this whole threat and thing is already there.
Yes, a very good weapon used by, parents or society in general to kind of tell
Yeah,
people what
that's
you.
one of the major constant, especially when uh, uh, I used to have these conversations around at times whenever I want to pick some conversations like this. I pick up on mom, and she's like, uh, at once she was watching some movie Gulmohar around this. It was having some part of around lesbian relationship, and she was
Yeah.
like, "ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है?" And I was like, कि दुनिया चांद पे जा रही है, we are still discussing कि क्या क्या हो सकता है, क्या क्या नहीं. And then she was like कि चलो फिर you kind of you get down from the higher grades to lower grades. Like if you talk to them about the same sex relationships, and after that you talk about the live in relationship, they are still okay with the one factor. Yes.
Okay.
So it still, I feel like that somewhere it gets down at that point, that it's very hard to explain them, and to for them to settle down at this whole idea also. Of
Hmm.
course, somewhere it's a generational gap.
Yeah.
And
I think that goes in the conditioning. The kind of time and space and conditioning our parents and the related generation comes from. It is mostly,
Mhm,
they have always been in this dodging space. I remember when I was child, there were so many questions. Any child, and it's not like today we say children are very smart of this age. There's
mhm,
children have always been smart. A child is as curious as he or she can be, right? As they can be. But we
mhm,
don't answer the questions. Sometimes we choose to kind of deviate them and dodge them. You spoke
mhm,
about having same sex relationships, labeling relationships. But if you
mhm,
please read even our mythology scripts, we have
mhm,
characters which speak of a third gender. So it
yeah,
exists. So it is not like suddenly people have, it always exists. And I still
yeah,
remember as a child, when I was very inquisitive about knowing why this particular character I cannot fit in, in either of the gender role,
Mhm.
there was no one to answer that. All it was felt
Yeah,
like, okay, this is God, they can do anything like that. So, period. Right?
exactly.
So, but the thing is that all those things have always existed, but they've kind of
Mhm.
thinking that, it is strange that as children we are taught to be honest, but somewhere
But
we,
not that.
yes, somewhere we keep honesty very, slightly away. We try to manipulate it the way, it is. We try to kind of massage it and tell to our children that, okay, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. But the best
Mhm.
part, the time that it is, of course, it's a very rebellious time as well for children to kind of, because you live now in an age where East meets West. It's very important to have that dialogue. It's very hard for parents as well, I understand. But it's
Mhm.
important to kind of keep nudging them, make them aware. I always feel these days you have a lot of shows, videos, reels, which somewhere talk
Mhm.
about such issues in a very in a not a bashing voice, but in a very sensible voice. So share it with your parents, talk to them, keep them open, take them out that this is the world that we live in now, and like I said earlier also, the change is the only constant. If they won't, it'll be, that is what will give a space to lies for penetrating.
Yeah.
You have a cobweb of lies which will eventually penetrate, and then you will say that you're not close and things don't fall in the place. But it's all because everyone tries earnestly to kind of be honest, to kind of share who they are. You have to understand that world is just not black and white. There is a lot of gray, and
Mhm.
every human goes through that. And I think humans react as per situations. We all have all kinds of shades, I feel. We all feel everything. No one is a saint and no one is a devil. So we all
Yeah.
have, depending on different situations. So labeling has become, but I would say that maybe because of labeling, again, conversations have started now. Like today, if you are talking about, if you're watching a movie with your mother and if you're talking about it, and if you're so comfortable talking to her about it, it never existed before. Probably you will even
Mhm.
dislike watching such a movie. You will say, oh
Yeah.
no. Or parents will say, no, this movie is not meant for, you cannot watch it. But it's, so the whole idea of age appropriate content, I feel, has kind of somewhere fizzled down, because now if your child has a question which is not age appropriate, but you need to feed them the right answers. So it's
Mhm.
important to have that dialogue keep going on. Of course, the generation has to work a little harder, but carry on and be hopeful.
So, what inspired you to write this book, or how been your experiences when you have connected throughout your journey with multiple people? As you said, it's been 8 years, so it's like a huge timeline where you met plenty of people of that day.
Yeah. So,
So, how was this entire journey?
yeah, I think what inspired me was when I moved my base from Gurgaon to Bangalore. That was 8 years back,
Mm-hmm.
and I noticed the office space that I joined there when I first moved to Bangalore. People were very candid about relationships, live-in relationships, and mind you, these people actually came from tier two, tier three cities. They were working there, and
Okay.
were actually living a very, if I may say, a very happily ever after live-in relationship. They were quite happy
Okay.
about it, only because their family, or this inner circle, the biological circle, they are not aware of that. And
Mm-hmm.
so you kind of feel very okay with that whole space. And that's when, and because I was married, I still remember I scribbled this idea. I was working in my office and I just wrote marriage versus live in relationship. And I just, it's just an idea. It came to my head, and it just slept after that. After that, years passed by. Lot happened in my my personal space. I got through a new job, a better job. We started a family. I started a family with my husband, and lot many things were there. And then when I took a sabbatical, when I became a mother, is when I started this journey, that okay, now is a good time to kind of not crib about that. So so what I've taken. So I started writing on this. And what inspired
Mhm.
me all this while was meeting all these people. Meeting
Mhm.
people who are married. I also noticed that my colleagues who are married, they always echoed the same issues, the same, the same kind of um, pros and cons about being married. The same,
All the cribbing sessions. What we say.
Yes, so like one of those, I remember I had this colleague, and she used to come, this was in Gurgaon actually, and she used to come and every morning, and she would take this espresso shot because she was so drowsy. And and she knew it's not good, but some days, not every morning, but some days she would take.
Mhm.
I was like, in the beginning, I
Mhm.
was like, why are you taking? So she said, we had this family dinner. It ended up at 3 a.m. I have to reach office at
Mhm.
8:30. Now, just be human, If you have work
Yeah.
8:30 in the morning, and if uh, how will the and it's not just one off, then it keeps happening. So there's this chapter that I have introduced in the book, which is about family dinners, which is
Yeah.
as real as it can be, because even I have faced that.
Mhm.
And somewhere in over here, I feel, I don't know how from a man's point of view, like I can speak of my husband and few of my male friends who were okay with it, like they will probably just chill out, not go or something. But sometimes you have something very critical at work which you cannot miss. But what happens
Mhm.
when you have a decision making, that there is this dinner which will end up being very late, and you know that if the women of the house say, oh, but I have this meeting, I have to reach, can we pack up early? You always try to pacify her, saying that take this, do that, because you're not important, you're not deemed important. Maybe for your husband, he understands, he will be like, okay, you try and understand. But if someone is like supposedly in a joint family, you would always be like that, what is such a big fuss? You can say, call it a sick leave and all. Of course, you can do all these last minute grease, but
Yeah.
depends, I think, so you don't feel. So all these emotions I felt as the journey is more or less similar. Of course, the way they move is different, their path will be different, the journeys are similar, but yes, eventually all these women, and then the live-in relationship, the kind of hardships they face, like you said that in the beginning, that
Mhm.
even when a live-in relationship, there is this expectation that okay, you'll
Mhm.
marry, right? But
Mhm.
so that gives them comfort. So even that kind of, I met so many of my friends who said that we'll see when we have to get married and all. So that thought is ingrained that okay, you have to marry, you cannot just live like this all this while.
Mhm.
So all this kind of, I think, inspired me to come up with this book.
That's nice. I believe it's whenever in the tier one city, tier two cities you move,
Mm-hmm.
you find at least two to three people. Like there's even in your in a working circle also,
Mm-hmm.
and then you feel like यार इनका सही है ये sorted life है इसमें कोई tension नहीं है. And because even when I came to Bangalore, I came across four to five people in the same scenario, and they are like, this feels a little bit sordid in terms of there is less of this whole family drama thing, all that, and it's more like somewhere you find that comfort gradually.
Hmm.
And I felt like, yeah, maybe. Again, it was like not settling for me at that point of time. But I actually watched this one Gujarati movie,
Mm-hmm.
and which was based on the same sort of theme. Forgetting the name. Chato Lagu it is.
Okay.
So it tells about that these the lady places this thing. It was one of the shart ki bhai before I get married, I want to live with this whole family for 1 month. If it
Oh.
works out well, I gonna get married. And I was like, yeah, ये सही option है. Because even as per the whole Indian culture thing, you don't marry the person, you marry a whole family.
Yes, if you're
And
living.
then you know, huh,
Yeah.
and then of course girls are considered to be adjusted in every specifications and everything. So I felt like from there I had this thinking, whenever if this happens someday in my life, I gonna execute the same kind of thing that it's like in that 1 month, especially let's say ki, even if you go on a vacation to some XYZ person for like a month or two तो खैर possible नहीं होता अपने यहाँ. But let's say कि you go for a week or some 15 days and you get to understand the human as an individual and everything. But of course, you know that person only. That's it. And even for the specific time frame, he behaves in a particular fashion that अभी conversion नहीं हुआ है. So you work with that perspective. And then when you gel up with the whole family, family has different kind of tantrums and हर एक का अपना अपना अलग अलग taste है, अलग अलग तरीके हैं काम करने के. And but when you're gonna live with the whole family, then only you realize that okay, this makes a perfect sense. And I felt like that's actually a very trial based 1 month live in relationship kind of short period. I felt it's been one of the most I say a good option that people can try.
Yeah.
I gave this thing idea to my mom also,
Oh.
and she's like, "तुम रहने दो, ऐसा नहीं होता."
So what you're mentioning is actually the premise of this story, this movie also. The Karan Johar, Rocky or Rani, they also did the same thing, right, in the movie.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So they also had the
They
same.
exchange the families.
Yes, exactly. So, uh, but that is true. I think, I always feel holiday is a very good idea, to kind of
Mhm,
know a person. Even when you're in a relationship and you want to move it to next level. By next level, I means whether it could be even living in together or it could be getting married.
mhm,
A holiday is always
mhm,
a great idea because you know a person, because a holiday is it's not expected, at every moment you have different situations, and that's when you can
mhm,
actually gauge the kind of how you react to a certain situation. So it's a very fantastic idea. I had the same idea for my marriage, which was 12 years back. I wanted to go on
okay.
holiday with my boyfriend, husband now. So I wanted to do that thing. The only thing is that this is again not acceptable.
Mhm,
You like that, why you want to go. So sometimes now I feel that it's like two people's life. You should really go out. What you do is that you can never have a foolproof answer. It's not like
mhm,
when you do this arrangement things will be very rosy and you will not have any issues and all. No, but what could really help you is that at least the initial setting of a live-in relationship or of a marriage, you avoid a lot of petty quarrels. For
mhm.
instance, what kind of temperature you and your partner sleep in, that's a very big fight, let me tell you. Many things.
Do you snore or not?
Yes, sharing the same space, because when you meet as a boyfriend, girlfriend, or two partners or companions, you always have a very attractive vibe with each other.
Mhm,
But when you live with them like every single day and like that, so you kind of avoid the initial issues. After that, you have to lead
mhm,
on to your own, but you come with a mindset that okay,
mhm,
this is what I will expect. But I definitely feel that before going for any long-term path that two people choose, they should definitely think of a holiday or staying in just for some time to understand that where they want to take this relationship, whether it is worth it or not. The other day I was in a podcast where someone said that these kind of arrangements could also lead to a lot of abuse,
mhm,
because sometimes because now live-in relationships they've become a talk of the town and people feel it's cool. So sometimes you do not use that much wisdom and brain. So you just enter into a live-in relationship without understanding that how intense your relationship is. It really worth, going into
Mm-hmm.
a relationship? So what they do is they eventually do, they fall apart, it becomes abusive or something, and then, but you do not have any call to action. In marriage you do have a call to action. You don't have much call to action, except now that the nation is waking up. But I always feel that that is also, it depends on the kind of maturity, the kind of wisdom that two people have, where they feel uh, even if it doesn't work, it's good, I feel, but at least you know it. At least you know it before you could call it as your grand picture, your grand picture
Mm-hmm.
of your life or whatever. But at least you are aware of it. At least you know that, okay, it didn't work out. Great. I got to know before. I didn't have to spend so many years. I didn't have to get stuck into, getting into, or suppose, some people do that even before marriage. So,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of arrangement helps, like you said. Definitely it eases out your initial worries, definitely. But having convincing people around to kind of get into that is very
It's a
hard.
headache.
Is a headache, definitely. But I must say, you should go, any people, two people deciding to marry or live in together, they should definitely go on a holiday. It tells you a lot about each other. Really, it tells.
Definitely.
I have advised a lot to my cousins and all. I keep telling them, and they've done that. So the thing is that if you be honest, you will never be supported. So eventually, the
Mhm.
route that you take is, then you lie. Then you lie and say, "Okay, I'm going with my friends," and then those friends
Oh, yeah.
become. Then you know that what happens.
I know. It's been recently. It's been case with one of my friends only who got
Mhm.
married, and she's like, before marriage, I want to go at least for 3 days on holiday with this person. So, and that's been a arranged kind of scenario. So of course, you get a very little amount of time to know
Yes,
the person in person.
yes.
And then so she was like, I want to go with her this entire way, and I was kind of going with her virtually. Oh, then these guys went and they're like, okay, we would love just find some more pictures or options we can have all together. I'm like, yeah, yeah, sure thing.
Yes, that's
But
true. I
yeah, somehow it helps. So, do you believe that living should be there before you actually get in the whole circus of marriage?
Yes, I like the word circus of marriage. It is indeed a circus of marriage. Definitely. In India, it is a circus of marriage. The kind of craziness that, whether it's a bride side, groom side, they go to such lengths to do all crazy things. So it eventually looks like a circus, I think, if you look a decade back. So today, if me and my
Hmm.
husband get our, the whole arrangements and everything, the marriage, sometimes it feels to us that, oh my God, such a big circus we created like that. So, yes, I do feel live-in relationship. It depends. See, like I said, I feel holiday is more important, because what happens when you're in a live-in relationship, you go with a mindset, a kind of, you're already prepared, so you will show your best, you will be your best, and that is because you know that eventually you're getting married. The thought,
Hmm.
actually you're getting married, so you will expect everything, and but there are a lot of petty issues that you will eventually solve, like, say, I told you about sharing space, a lot of habits and everything, you will definitely try to understand, which is why I feel travel is a very stronger thing. Maybe you stay away from the city and be in a place where you probably have to step out and go and do some work, like daily household work, something, so things like that. It definitely helps. Like, I would definitely recommend to, it's not a guarantee at the same time, but it helps you kind of feel a little more comfortable when you are with a, so uh, we live in a setup in India where the girl moves out of her house and moves to the husband and
Hmm.
family, in contrast to Western families where everyone lives separately. So it's just that, yes, you move to the husband's house, or two people decide to buy their own house and live there. something like that, right?
Mhm.
So, which is equality-wise speaking, it's a very neutral stand, you know. I remember I had this. My daughter was 5. We were watching Malgudi Days, and
Okay.
she was. There was one episode where the girl is getting married and she has to go to the house, and because my daughter is a girl and she understands that she's a girl,
Mhm.
so she asked me that why girl is going to the house and why not boy
Yeah.
going to the house. And I was looking at her, trying to see how should I answer this question. So then I was like, I told her, I was like, it is not written anywhere. It is not written.
Mhm.
And if you see, it's not written anywhere that you have to do this. You are a free.
Yeah, yeah.
You choose what you want to. If you want to
Mm.
stay with a boy's family, boy's house, you're free to. But if you're not, do raise that out. And then my husband just came in because we stayed separately. So he said, no, see, in our case, it's not like that. I am away from my parents. Your mother is also away from her parents. We are living in the house. It's a very equilibrium. So she understood that
Yeah.
space because she got very worked up that, okay, I have to leave this house. But then she was
Yeah.
comforted that, okay, this happens and it's not just girls who kind of get into this. So there is a lot of
Mhm.
unfairness, which is why in my book, I intentionally put the girl. I had shown that she stayed for some time with her in laws and then she moved because
Mhm.
they thought that will be better because they come from two different environments. It was a love
Mm.
marriage. There could be a lot of brickbats around it. But yes, I think to sum it up what you asked, live-in relationship
Mhm.
uh, is good to have. It's kind of good to stay with a person, go on holiday with person. You learn a lot. You avoid the initial battles, and at least you can have a 6-8 months of a rosy married life.
And you get to know about कि इंसान कहाँ सड़ जाएगा
Exactly.
और नॉर्मल रहेगा. That's
Exactly.
like.
So that's why in travel, it's not planned. Like suppose you're booking
Mhm.
an itinerary or something, or you are at a destination where the tickets are closed, the weather is very bad. How do you act and react to situation? Are you someone who get very fluttered? You or you
Mhm.
become very zone or you zone out or something. All these things add a lot. So you know the person. Okay, I never knew this.
True that. Okay, so I got this one question that mostly in the cases of like as you have pictured that in your book also, that especially the kids with some family issues or broken family issues, they mostly have this thing that they're not sure if they
Mm,
want to get married or not, or
yes.
even if they want to get married, so will this person be fine, or what it will bring more problems or whatever, so they back out. So what how exactly then it goes with that kind of zone, and especially who have faced these kind of situations, they 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 are like having this piece of cake kind of thing, they want it and they don't want it. So there's a whole struggle going on between that. I think they are more inclined towards this live-in concept, or but at the same time they are afraid also, like what you have pictured in your book as well.
Yes, exactly. So, Prajita, if you look back in time, you would see that how slowly the world is changing. I'll speak in India's context because I think culturally we are a very different country right now, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
Asian concept for that matter. In the beginning, the marriages were only were decided by the family heads. There
Mm-hmm.
were times when the boy and the bride and the groom would not even know each other.
Yeah.
Okay. So that used to be the setup. And of course, if
Mm-hmm.
it's the setup, you will expect turmoil when they grow out of it. Women were asked to kind of, but how this space was kept neutral is because it was very clearly defined by the society itself. There's nowhere written in stone that a woman is supposed to take care of the house and a man is supposed to earn the bread for the house,
Yeah.
right? But this is all society defined. So that's why there was a very peaceful environment. Um,
Mm-hmm.
then it moved to a place where, okay, the boy and girl they will do first meeting and we close it. That's it. You don't get more than that. Then it moved to a space where you have these dating apps. Shadi.com came with a very big revolution that, oh, now you can choose your app, your partner, right? So all these things have kind of, now it's in a space where you're like, okay, you probably meet, don't involve your families, live in, get into a relationship and see if it works or not. You're always trying to
Mhm.
see. And that actually comes from because you have seen probably your parents or related marriages around you, and you're not quite happy with the way they are, which is what I have shown in one of the stories. You don't
Yeah.
want to be stuck up as a child. If you see that, marriage has so much of, arguments, and it's so difficult to live, you would never want to get into that space. You would be
Mhm.
like that, I would never want to get married if this is what it looks like. I would never want to kind of, I never want, you'll kind of deviating it from that path.
Mhm.
And those generations don't realize that eventually they have built it, this space. Subconsciously, yes, of course, they would never want their children to have, no matter, I
Mhm.
say this, that no matter how ugly a parent's marriage is, they always want a very happy married life for their children, right?
Yeah.
Without telling them what it involves and everything, how much work it involves, nothing. The only word that we
Mhm.
are taught is compromise. They say
Yeah.
that becomes, right?
इतना तो
And
करना पड़ेगा.
इतना तो करना पड़ता है, exactly. And so this generation is just trying to make it easier. And if you see that, if the generation earnestly is trying to see a partner and they want to see whether they really get along or not, eventually they are also working towards what your parents want, which is to stay happily ever after. And by the way, there is no concept called happily ever after. Any relationship is a work in progress. You cannot expect that you are laughing every day, or you know
Yeah, yeah.
unless you are doped or something, then only that's the state that is possible. Otherwise it's not. So it's a kind of work that keeps happening. And parents need to, that generation kind of need to understand that they are also working towards that. They are not kind of, they also understand that the kind of expectations. So sometimes if you are in a space where you've seen and you've grown up seeing an argument, or like I can relate to this, not exactly, but I remember when I was young, a lot of dowry cases used to be there.
Mhm.
And I had seen, there were even couple of movies that came out and became very popular. I don't remember the name, but I know this actress was burnt. I don't know the name, I can't remember. But that had a very deep impact on me when I saw. I
Mhm.
probably was the same age as my daughter was. And in my head, I was like, this is a route I will never take in my life. And this was very, and I was like, this is a route I will never take. And there was no one, if I used to ask these questions with everyone, there was like that, no, no, this is just something, these are some gifts that you give, and these are some things, and it doesn't happen
Mhm.
like that. Whereas when I grew up, I used to read it in papers, and I was like, no, I think it does happen. So it's not just a story, it does happen like that.
Yeah.
So, it is, as much as it is an effort from this generation to have a very healthy relationship with their partner, it is also important for parents. Otherwise, parents will also end up suffocating themselves if you're not open to this world. There is no harm. uh, the myth is that you think that if two people are living together, or if they go on a holiday together, all they will do is just be in the bed, which is
Yeah.
not the case. And they don't need a holiday or live in. They would probably eventually be doing that, you won't know, right? So they won't
Yeah.
need. But probably you have to kind of understand. You can have a dialogue, you can have a candid conversations, but the influence that parents and that generation's marriage has had is what has eventually led this generation to take up such stands, because they
Mhm.
don't want such situations. Maybe they will come in such situations, but they just want to play safe. So, very fair point that ways.
Yeah. I agree. Actually, we recently started this homestay thing, and
Mm.
we get a lot of guests over here. And
Okay.
well, like of course, we initially it was like not couple friendly, and then I was like, but comparatively, if you see a lot of the kids like our age are traveling, and what you think, what they are, don't they want to actually do the darshan and all? So that's how I had a word about it, and I was like, no, it's not fair to them, and so we opened this option, and so in the initial days, or maybe some people ask like, unka starting years, hota hai, we will get the privacy or not, and like that.
Yeah.
So, so that's how it started, and so anytime such kind of event or such kind of people used to come, then this whole thing was going on, and mom was like, why she was asking this, why yes and all that, and tumhe kaha tha you don't open this and all that, and then it was like it's not actually their fault also.
It's very important to kind of handhold parents and the related generation and keep them, have this dialogue on with them. Do not shun away things with them. For instance, you're going out with who. Be very honest. I remember when I had got married, I usually, I have more male friends than female friends. But I have two, three female
Okay.
friends who were very strong to me, my best friends. So that point of time, that was the case with me, and I was very open about this. I never felt a friend is a friend. I would not have gender defined that these are my friends. And
Yeah.
it takes a while, like you said, that, for parents to kind of, okay, open up to all these ideas.
Yeah.
But it is important to do that rather than lying and saying, no, no, it's all girls and everything, or the fact that no,
Mm-hmm.
people don't. Yeah, why do people want privacy? Like you said, that, couples, you wanted to open to it, and it's very important because let's see, we should create a world where any two consenting adults, if they feel they really want to go on a holiday, share a room, it's absolutely fine. So far they're not creating a nuisance to your property or something. It's a very natural thing, and we should
Mm-hmm.
restrict. The last talk that I had was on Insta with this girl, and she was telling me that, how sometimes when live-in partners, they go for pet adoption even, the pet
Mm-hmm.
parents who we're kind of adopting, they also are skeptical because they feel you're living in, so there's
You
no
may.
permanency. So they,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so it's weird. I was like, oh my God, to that level it is there, that permanency is not there. So you understand how you're kind of cornering. So it is very
Yeah.
important, and I'm glad you kind of opened this up to your homestay, that it is very important. We should not corner such people. It will,
Yeah.
it's absolutely fine. Like, it's each to their own.
We came across some of like really nice couple also, and really nice friends also. They came over here, made a whole Maggie and everything. Like, I mean, I would somewhere say that at my age of around 20s, around when we actually wanted to go out and do the night out, or maybe make Maggie at 3 a.m., which was like adventure in those years. So like that's something that they are doing over here, and then we be like, okay, we are helping some people, normalize with this whole scene, and they have some stories of their own now. So like that is also somewhere it's like, yeah, that's beneficial in a way, and that helps them also to understand each other somewhere.
Totally.
So you told that yours was love marriage, and then it was so. How was your transition from the whole relationship thing to the marriage thing?
So we had a very short, dating period, to be honest, and that's because coincidentally we belong to the same caste community. So it almost
Okay.
felt like that after a point in time, one of the relatives, I think, said that, okay, now, you should just get on to before you realize that eventually both of you are cousins. Like that, it was, yeah. So it came to that point because you have the same community, the same village where your grandparents are coming from and everything. So they're like, okay, now let's stop before you realize that, you are cousins and let's get this. So for me, it was like that. But I had issues, of course, in the beginning. I think everyone has. And when I say issues, not
Mhm.
I should not probably call it issues, but I would say there was a lot of newness.
Mhm.
A lot of newness in terms of, like I told you, that I had a lot of male friends that point in time. So kind of asking them to come over to, my in-laws' place with so much. So it could be like that it's kind of unsettling or it's kind of not that, comfortable. So like that. There are very new things. So even things like food. I remember this
Okay.
of mine. She's a Punjabi married in a Bengali household, and
Okay.
the food is very different. And she was a vegetarian, and Bengalis love their fish. So for her, every morning she used to get this, and every morning, okay, every day, this cucumber sandwich, the buttered bread with cucumber. Kind of so it's kind of hard in the beginning, the newness, it's not. And especially when you're marrying and entering and living with the family, it is very difficult
Mhm.
because at home you can actually say, oh, I don't want this, oh, I don't want that. You can be very easy, like you can literally do sit like this, I would say, with your feet up, which is not the case. Which is might not be, but it takes a while to get into that comfort zone. But what I've
Yes.
realized, one thing is that a lot many times you're told that don't do this and all, but what helps in the longer run is just be honest. If you are like this, you are like this, because then it is easier for everyone to know that this is the person that it is, rather than keeping them in shroud and after a year some another person only comes,
Mhm.
like that. That's how I say.
Yeah, that's like वो कोकोनट खोला अंदर कुछ और बाहर कुछ और.
Yeah, so I think just be honest about that. Yes, this is me. I wear short clothes. I do this. I like to eat this. I like to do that. Not throwing things at everyone, but respecting someone's individuality. Very simple.
Hmm. Fair enough. So, tell us a piece of advice or suggestion that you have for our generation who is struggling between relationship labeling and marriage and all that.
The first thing I see is that stop pressurizing yourself and don't overdo. Don't get into this. I always say, don't get into this herd mentality. Don't feel pressurized because your friends are getting married. You have to get married.
Hmm.
um, it doesn't work. Sometimes certain things are not meant at a certain time. Maybe you're not ready for it. There are so many of people I know who got married only because of this pressure, only to know later on that they're not ready for it. And that's when the
Hmm.
problem comes. So my advice is, don't overdo, don't feel pressurized. Marry when you want to marry, like when you really feel. Marriage is not a God's creation. It is not,
Hmm.
it is not something that you have to do in this life. Let me tell very honestly, it is not. It is something which the society has created, right? To call uh, relationships, romantic relationships or live in relationships, to give them an acceptable space, maybe. So, marriage is completely society created, right? If you really feel very strongly about it, if you really feel that you really want to be with that person, and then it depends the kind of path you want to choose on to. Are you okay living forever with the family, with the husband, accordingly take the bet? Or these days, the marriages have also come out of their in laws, which means that now I see a lot of couples getting married and staying separately, however, close to their parents' house,
Hmm.
but having their own nest outside. which is also fine because you're being fair to each other. There is no, the moment a woman enters another house, the kind of expectations, the kind of weakness that she feels that I have stepped out, so I should be, that whole dilemma goes away. So, my advice is just that two people should decide together for their future, should eventually see how compatible they are, and brickbats will happen. It's not like you marry, and you will not have. You will have fights, and you will not have in live-in relationships. Live-in relationships is not easy, especially in India. You have to have a
Hmm.
very strong, mental space, because it's not just your family. The society you stay in, you live in, will also corner you, will also
Hmm.
kind of look down upon. So you need to have a very mentally you have to be very strong about that, about living in, wherein you are like that. I don't care, okay, what people think about it. We feel that this works for us. This works for us. So don't succumb to pressure. Uh, Two people should be the deciders of how they want to take this journey. And the two paths that they have is marriage and live in relationship. That's what I've shown in the book. So you have different paths, but you choose your own path.
Definitely. It's been actually a very good read. I enjoyed entirely reading it, and then I was like, okay, after a while, I read something like this. So when I got your book, I kind of finished it in 3 days or 4 days, I guess.
Oh, thank you. I'm
And
so glad you enjoyed it. And I remember the reel that you made that's really close to,
yeah,
because it came just in the week of when the book was launched, just
ye-
in that week. And it was very, very special to me. So I've kind of pinned it around because it was very, very heartful what you said. It just came
yeah,
from what you felt.
yeah, that's how I was like, okay, we'll discuss it sometime maybe. So yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Aprajita,
And
for having me. And I look forward to more of your podcast. I have only seen the Thappad one, probably because it has become very popular. I look forward to more such trending topics.
sure thing, sure thing. I'm on my way to for it.
Great.
Okay, so for everyone, please read this book. Do I Not Marry by Aditi, and I'll share the link for the same in the description section. And do share your views and reviews on her Read Your Money profile and Amazon also.
Amazon, yes.
So
Please,
yeah,
please drop a review. If you like the book, if you don't like the book, I'm happy to hear both sides.
all right. Thank you so much. See you
Thank you.
later.
Thank you, Prajita. Thank you. Have a beautiful day. Bye bye.
So that's how we sum up our conversation and this ongoing fight between live-in relationships and marriage. Thank you for your time listening to this little longer episode today. I'm signing off from अपरा व्यक्ति for today. मिलते हैं फिर अगले एपिसोड के एक तड़कते भड़कते टॉपिक के साथ. Stay tuned. Hasta la vista.